Mom, who is the founder of Feed Your Family Tonight, and she's always helping us out, especially on these Tuesday mornings to get our breakfast going, huh?
Right, today we're making one of my favorite breakfasts for my husband. It's a spinach hash brown breakfast bake, and it takes several steps to get it going, but once you bake it, it makes a really nice batch, and I like to cut it up and freeze it and keep it in the freezer, and my husband pulls one out in the morning and microwaves it. It's really good. It starts off with 2 cups of milk and 6 eggs, and to that we just add a teaspoon of coarse salt, a teaspoon of dry mustard. This you get in the spice aisle of the grocery store, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And do you want to stir that up, Allison? The next ingredient is spinach, and you can see there's a box of frozen spinach there. You want to thaw that frozen spinach and then drain it. And I drained this partially, but you can see I have my spinach inside this tea towel, and you just squeeze out as much water as you can, because the water causes the casserole to be watery, and you don't want that. So after you squeeze out as much water as you can out of the spinach, you're going to transfer it to another bowl.
Is that just like a regular rag, or is that some kind of special
It's
thing?
just my tea towel. It's just something from my kitchen. It's just a kitchen towel. It's
Okay.
nothing fancy. And your spinach is kind of clumpy at this point, and you want to break it up with a fork and then add 1/3 of a cup of flour. And what that does is that just absorbs more of the moisture, so you don't end up with a watery casserole. I don't know if you've ever had a breakfast casserole that was kind of watery.
Doesn't work.
And I am not a fan of a watery breakfast casserole. And then you just kind of break up the spinach and mix it with the flour and add another teaspoon of salt. So there's 2 teaspoons of salt total in this entire casserole. The next element is frozen hash browns. Take a baking pan and line it with about 2 tablespoons of butter. Put your frozen hash browns in the pan, and then spray a little cooking spray over the top and bake it at 375 degrees for about 40 minutes. And it starts to get brown around the edges like this one does. And then
So it's just a pretty thin layer, or as thick as you want?
you can do it thicker, and actually they shrink as they cook, so it's going to look like there's a lot more in there, and then it kind of thins down. This is about a half a bag of hash browns. This is 15 ounces of hash browns, which is about 5 cups. And this full recipe is on my website, so don't feel like you have to write it all down right now. Just visit feedyourfamilytonight.com, and you can get the entire recipe step by step. Then you're going to take this spinach and flour mixture, and you're going to sprinkle it on top of the hash browns that have cooked. And you can do this straight hot out of the oven. Then after that, after you spread that to the corners, you add the cheese. So this is 8 ounces of cheese. I like Swiss, but any cheese will work. A Colby Jack or a pepper jack, if you like it a little bit spicy, works really well. Cheddar works great. Any kind of a hard cheese that you can get in a block. This is an 8-ounce block that I have shredded, and then you just sprinkle that over the edge. And the last little step is to pour this milk and egg mixture that Allison beat up for me just perfectly. You just pour this over the top, and you return it to that 375-degree oven, and you bake it for another 30 minutes. And what's going to happen is it's going to puff up, and the cheese is going to start to brown, and you end up with this breakfast casserole that has spinach and hash browns and eggs and milk, and it's kind of salty, and it's a little chewy. It's really satisfying. I
love
enjoy
that
it.
It has a little bit of everything in there, even a veggie. Sometimes you don't want to get everything on your countertop dirty, using all kinds of different pots and pans trying to cook a big breakfast. That kind of incorporates it all. What do you think, Shane?
I absolutely love it, and I was wondering what the flour might do too, just because that's a different kind of step. The mustard in there, I don't quite pick that up. It's just interesting, ingredients that you're throwing in there, making sure it all comes together in the end, and it sure does.
Well, that's just it. Is you don't taste the mustard. It just kind of gives it a little bit of tang that you would notice if it weren't there, but you don't notice it there. It's one of those ingredients that you notice if it wasn't there.
Perfect.
Whatever's in there, it's working. It
Well,
really,
I'm
really
glad you
great.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. If you were trying to follow along and you missed a step or you would like to get everything, you can go to feedyourfamilytonight.com to get this full recipe, among others, anything that you've seen here on Good Morning Kansas every Tuesday. Mariefiebach, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We'll be right back.